Hello and welcome to another episode of Mole in Hell, your Diablo 4 podcast. And this week we have to talk a little bit about, the future of Diablo 4 and more importantly, the future of this podcast. Because, man, so what you're seeing here in the background is just some footage I recorded. I'm bad, I'm underleveled, I shouldn't be in tier 4, right? My biggest problem is though I'm done with tier 3. I killed the tier 3 Guardian boss with level 61, I think it was. And it wasn't really a big deal. So my equipment for tier 3 was basically maxed out. I was done there, right? I had the best equipment you could get, and nothing would really improve. But the game is still like, yeah, but you're completely underleveled if you are now going into tier 4 because enemies are like level, what is it, 75 you are facing most of the time. So they are way above you, and your equipment is still tier 3. So you are also getting like beating your shit in. And you will see me die quite a bit. Also, I haven't played in 3 weeks nearly since season 1 started. So I was also very much out of shape with knowing how my build works. I don't know what they nerfed, what they buffed exactly. I'm a little bit like out of touch. And well, that is also one of the reasons we have to talk a little bit today. But the one thing I realized is, so the game is forcing me to stay in tier 3 more or less for another 8-7 levels before I can get into tier 4, because the level difference is such a huge difference, especially if you're not running like one of the cookie cutter builds or even like OP builds. As far as I understand, like this is one of my homebrew builds I'm running, but it is apparently very close to one of the top druid builds. Like here's the thing with homebrew builds in Diablo 4. You realize that there's not really like a lot of choice when you are just thinking a little bit about it. And I love to do builds for myself. I love to go in with my own builds, and most of the time in action RPGs I fare pretty well with them. I have to refine them, yada yada. But then I'm looking online and I'm realize, oh, it's actually one of the more top builds because you don't have a lot of choices. Like in PoE, it never happened to me that any of my cookie cutter builds were just remotely close to what the top builds are doing. But in Diablo 4, I have it constantly that, like, even my Barbarian Upheaval build I was running has been apparently very close to, like, the Upheaval build everyone is running. And it's like, okay. Well, that was unexpected. Like, because you don't have a lot of build choices, right? But so the one thing I really wanted to talk about this week is a little bit what I noticed on YouTube and even online, and it is so annoying. I know this is a constant problem for a lot of video games. Hello, Baldur's Gate 3 and other developers who are now getting shit over because Baldur's Gate 3 is a success. That is an absolutely wild thing to watch. But the same goes for Diablo. I think we can all agree that Season 1 in Diablo 4 has been mediocre at best and pretty disappointing for everyone. Like, they basically added a patch as a season feature, and something they could have just added, or they maybe even wanted to add to the game anyways. And yeah, it's a weekend event. They sold you as a 3-month season. And I will say it again, the best choice would have been not to have season 1, and season 1 should have come in October. Like, which is now season 2. And I'm hope that season 2 actually has some stuff to offer, some stuff to do, because Diablo 4, at least from a purely PR perspective, is not looking so hot. But this is also something I wanted to talk about. I see so many YouTubers and Twitch streamers and those React streamers who always have this blowjob face as their thumbnail, basically going hard on Diablo 4, like 0 out of 10, shittiest game ever. This game is dead. Well, the end of Diablo. Blizzard screwed it up again. And it's like, what the hell, man? It's kind of weird because the gameplay everyone was praising hasn't really changed at all. So how is this? oh my god, this is the best Diablo of all time, is now the shittiest Diablo of all time just because of some balance changes, right? It isn't. It's outrage. It's manufactured outrage again, and unfortunately it works on YouTube, right? This is why this podcast is relatively small, while other YouTubers have like millions of views on just riding the shit train on a developer on a game because, oh yeah, outrage. It just works easier, unfortunately, right? But I'm not here to complain about that. That's stupid. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. But the problem is, I don't see Diablo 4 being dead. Does Diablo 4 have problems? Yes. And they're mostly content related. They are mostly live service related, and that is very much what I expected. Live service games have been the pinnacle of just giving you the bare minimum, then asking a lot of money, and then slowly over time adding the things which should have been there right from the get-go. Like, prime example, Sea of Thieves. Everyone you are asking nowadays, Sea of Thieves has a very good image, people love it, it's getting played quite a bit, it gets high quality content, and you just look at it and go, this is a good live service game. What a lot of people forget, 3 years ago or 4 years ago when it came out, this game was shit. There was barely any content there, right? Like, the base game was good. The base stuff, the footwork, was all laid out pretty well, but there was no content. There were not enough factions, there were not enough missions, there were not enough encounters. Like, it was all very bare bones, and the only thing which kept this game alive till finally new content arrived was PvP. This is why people love PvP and why everyone is getting a little bit pissy when you only mention, I would probably come back to Sea of Thieves if they would have a PvE only server, and people go like, no, you're taking away my people I can attack. No, right? Because at the beginning of Sea of Thieves, there was nothing really else to do. It was all PvP, and the PvP was really fun, and they kept the game alive, which is completely fine. But again, if you're looking at it for a $60 game, Sea of Thieves had barely anything in it. And now, over the years, they added more islands, they added more territories, more story missions, more PvE content, more PvP content. Not everything always worked, like the purely PvP arena didn't really work too much. And again, like, there are ups and downs with Sea of Thieves, but it is a really good service game. But it took years to get them there, and I pretty much expect that Diablo 4 will take the same route. Yes, it would take years to get there, but it will get better, and I'm hoping that Season 2 will be like the first step in the right direction. Now, the problem is, though, Blizzard, and we talked about this last time, 2 weeks ago, when the whole Path of Exile convention happened. Blizzard is running out of time. And what I mean with out of time is in the next year. They have about a year to really prepare Diablo 4 to what happens next. Because, well, we have tons of amazing games coming up. And we have tons of amazing action RPGs coming up. We have Last Epoch, which is probably coming by the end of the year. We have PoE 2 starting into closed beta 1 day after the anniversary of Diablo 4. And if you've missed it, this Friday was also announced that Titan Quest 2 is coming. Now, you might, of course, laugh at this and go like, Titan Quest 2? Nobody knows that game anymore. Last Epoch. Like, yes, I understand. Like, the only big game which can actually really destroy Diablo 4 is Path of Exile 2, right? But please don't underestimate the power of multiple smaller games slowly taking away from Diablo 4. Like, even if it's just like, oh yeah, Last Epoch takes away 10% of the player base. PoE takes away 30% of the player base. Titan Quest 2 is taking away 10% of the player base. And then you already have like 50% of the player base just gone. That's not good. Especially in a live service game where keeping players playing and hopefully paying in the end is super duper important for the survival of this game, right? Like, if you haven't really looked into it too much, this is what a lot of publishers and executives want nowadays. Playtime and keeping players involved in your game is as much important as how much money does it make. Because this is the power of your IP, right? Even if the money flow is sometimes slower, you can still argue that, but look at the power of my IP and look how we can utilize that in the future, let's say for other games, for updates. So the staying power is still pretty strong, right? And so it is very important that they keep the people playing. But the reality is also, let's be real here, you have less and less time to play sometimes video games because of your job, because of like other things happening in life, your family. Like, there's legit reasons why people sometimes have issues with having their free time playing video games, and they have to make decisions. Where do they want to spend said free time? And in which video game do they want to do this? And if they have to make a decision, well, they are taking the games they just feel better and feel more cared for, right? And I sometimes think that this is what people who make decisions at the company forget about, who only see like, how can we make a lot of money about it? I know this is drifting into a conversation about capitalism and where we are going with that, and that's not really where I want to go, because A, I'm not equipped for that, and B, it's not really part of this podcast. But let me give you a quick example of how important it is to not underestimate other games which are coming out at the same time. So, as you probably know, Baldur's Gate 3 just came out last week. It's everywhere. People love it. Developers love it. There is now the stupid conversation about how some developers are afraid of it, panicking, and how we should all shit on those developers and that they are not seeing this as a new standard, yada, yada, yada. It's like, dude, can you not all just shut up here for a moment, celebrate this amazing game, enjoy this amazing game, instead of doing like some hit piece on YouTube or on the internet website? I would appreciate it. Thank you. But nonetheless, Baldur's Gate 3 is doing amazing. It's an amazing game. Highly recommend it. It's consuming my life right now. I'm streaming it as often as I can, put a lot of hours into it, and I still feel like I have way to go, even like 30, 40 hours in. It's crazy. And that came out. And interestingly enough, a few weeks before that, Remnant 2 came out. Also a very, very good game. Highly recommended, especially if you like Souls-like games with a little bit of a looter shooter mixed in it, and amazing gameplay and storytelling they're doing there. And I was a little bit afraid when Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out that the player base of Remnant 2 would dwindle. It didn't. Yes, they lost a few players, but I think that was more of the reason of the game is now out a few weeks. But it is still freaking amazing when you were seeing that the highest number they ever had was like 80,000, and now they had around 70,000, even like nearly a month after the release. That is pretty good, right? So another quality game people love to play. And you know what released last week? You probably didn't. Atlas Fallen. If you're like, who? Atlas Fallen is the new game by Deck 13, who made Lords of the Fallen. No, not the new one coming out, the old one. They made The Surge 2, and The Surge 2, by the way, one of the best Souls-likes out there. It was actually one of my top 5 games when it came out. Such a good game, such a good vision of what they wanted to do. And Atlas Fallen is mediocre, unfortunately. I played it for a few hours, and I decided not to come back to it because I don't know what this was. It was an experiment which didn't work out. Nonetheless, it came out and disappeared into nothingness. Because people realized very quickly this doesn't have the PR, this doesn't have the word of mouth, people are not talking about it constantly. It's a mediocre game at best. I would barely recommend with Game Pass, right? And so unfortunately, this game did completely go under. And the reason for that is, well, people have Baldur's Gate 3 and they have Remnant 2 if they want something action-oriented, right? Like, developers finally have to realize that when they release a game, release time and date matters very much, because people have to not only make money decisions. Let's not forget, video games are becoming quite expensive because some people just cannot help it. And Baldur's Gate is another wow example of just here's $60, but you were getting the full experience, right? But people also, and this is more important, they have to make the decisions of where do I spend my time. And Baldur's Gate realized that. Let's not forget, Baldur's Gate official release date was one day before the early access start of Starfield on September 1st. And I bet with you that if those games would have released at the same time, neither Baldur's Gate 3 nor Starfield would become as big as they are, because people would have to make the decision where they want to spend their 200 hours of playtime. And it's that simple. And now you might think, wow, you are drifting off Diablo quite a bit. What's the point here? My point is that Blizzard, yes, even though Diablo 4 is out and all that, they want people to play this game for years to come. This is not just a fire and forget game. This is a live service game. So, whenever a new game is coming out, Blizzard has to offer something to keep people playing. Because they already said that, oh yeah, you know what, we don't really mind if people come back to a season, play a little bit, and then vanish again, and then come back for another season. That's completely fine. Yeah, but you need a reason for people to come back in the first place. When you were saying this, let's say season 2 starts, and another amazing game is coming out at the time, and people decide that they want to play this amazing game, then Blizzard will argue, well, that's okay that you are not playing 1 or 2 seasons sometimes. You come back for the next season again. But then, this next season, 3 months down the road, another amazing game is released, and people have to make the decision again, realize that the Diablo 4 season looks like fun, but not really something they want to spend some time in, because this new amazing game seems to be such a better time investment. And I have the feeling Blizzard is running into that trap a little bit. But again, we will see about that when the next season starts, when we are getting a better overview what we can actually expect there and how much gameplay there is. But that's something we do not find out till October. It's kind of crazy to me that we are not even like a month into the new season. We're getting close to it, but we are not even a month in, and everyone has basically already forgotten about the season. By the way, what you are also seeing here in the background is not my season character. This is my Eternal Realm character, because I absolutely see no reason to invest time into the season stuff. Oh, but the season pass? Oh, yeah, that season pass. It looks boring. Doesn't really give you much. It's one of those season passes where you just look at it and think, that's it? Dude, I'm playing some games with season passes, and every level can be really exciting and bring something new to the table you are looking forward to. Like one of the season games I'm playing is TFT, Teamfight Tactics. Love the season passes there. Not every season pass is for me, because I don't like the theme of a season pass sometimes. That happens. That's fine. But every time I have a season pass where the theme is fitting, like every level is like, oh yeah, I'm getting this. Oh my god. Like sometimes it feels so overwhelming, right? And then you're looking at the Diablo season pass and you just go, wait, that's what I'm getting? Now, wow. Like, again, Blizzard has to improve there, but we talked about this last week. So, the clock is ticking on Diablo 4, but it's not a horrible, shitty game nobody wants to play anymore, anything like that. Like, Doomsayers are doing already some testing here, and there's nothing really there yet. Like, again, clock is ticking. They have to work. They have to act. But this whole thing of Diablo 4 is dead. It's just like, oh, come on, folks. Fine. If you don't, like, I sometimes feel like this is the fallback topic for a lot of content creators who kind of have to keep the game going because Diablo 4 is doing good numbers to them, which is against the whole Diablo 4 is dead, because it seems like a lot of people are still caring for Diablo 4, but they don't really know what they can talk about it anymore, so they're just making shit up at this point. That's the feeling I'm always getting. But to not walk into that same trap, and this is what we have to talk about, is I don't know what I could talk about in Diablo 4. Like, I'm not doing builds. I said this before. Funny enough, I have a few builds on my channel, but they are outdated and not really cared for too much, and so on and so forth. But no, like, I'm not doing builds. I don't really have anything else to talk about. So the reality is that Mole in Hell is taking a step back. I'm not killing this podcast, but the amount of times you will see Mole in Hell will unfortunately fluctuate quite a bit, and depending on what Blizzard is doing with Diablo 4, right? Like, it can sometimes take even a month before you get a new episode. Now, before you were unsubscribing, what the hell? Desubscribing. I mean, can you use desubscribing? Yeah, English, who cares? Before you're leaving, I have some good news. For you. Yes, Diablo 4 might fall a little bit off. I mean, it has been, but you have also probably noticed that I have been ramping up my Starfield content production here on the channel, and thank you everyone listening to it. And what can I say? Mole in Hell will move to Mole in Space. Yes, I think starting next week, we will have our first Starfield podcast with, well, Mole in Space. And we will just talk a little bit about Starfield, because there's a lot to discuss. And I think there's also a lot to discuss when the game is coming out. Just like, even if it's about talking stories and what I saw, maybe what you saw, let me know in the comments then. And I think there's a lot to do there, right? It's not a live service game by any means, but I think it could be some interesting content. By the way, if you don't know, I have 2 more channels, well, actually 3 more channels, if you're curious. I have a React channel with Mole Reacts here on YouTube. I have ChaosMole Plays, which is my playthrough channel. And by the way, if you want to see me running an evil playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, not Dark Urge, I'm regular evil, I'm trying to conquer the world, check out my @ChaosMole Plays playthrough there. We already have like quite a bit of hours of playthrough there. So if you have like 10, 20 hours and more to come, it's something you should start. But more importantly, one of the channels I definitely want to promote here a bit is my Mole Under Management channel. Mole Under Management was a crazy idea I had at the beginning of the year, and it is my strategy channel. So all the strategy games, like turn-based, city management, city building games, management games, RTS games, like everything which is strategy, right? You will find in that channel. I do playthroughs, I do first looks, I do reviews on them, I do deep dives. And like one of the games I'm focusing quite a bit on right now is City Skylines 2, but I also did some videos on Tempest Rising. If you have never heard of that, Command & Conquer. It's literally Command & Conquer. Like even the units and the factions, they just changed the names and changed the look a little bit so that they are not getting dragged into a lawsuit. But they literally have a hand of nod there. They have the GDF, the Global Defense Forces, instead of the Global Defense Initiative. And it's just like, holy shit, man. It's just, they're stealing Command & Conquer. And it's completely fine, because EA doesn't give a shit about Command & Conquer anymore, right? So definitely check out my Mole Under Management channel. Pretty proud on the channel on how much it has grown, how much it still grows. And I do quite a bit of content for that channel. So definitely check that out if you want to see a little bit more of me. But yeah, Mole in Hell is taking a step back, making space for Mole in Space. I show myself out there. I'm so sorry. Oh, I show myself out for that bad joke. Gosh. Yeah, you know how it is, Germans and their jokes. It's a serious matter. Yeah. But yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but that's what I kind of expected. Like, interestingly enough, Diablo 4, I'm not giving up on Diablo 4. To make this very clear, like if you think, oh yeah, he's just moving on from Diablo 4. No, I do not. Diablo 4 is a long-term project I had planned. And I want to be with Diablo 4 like every step of the way. And this will run over years. Like Mola P will cover Diablo 4 over years. Not constantly all the time, because this is not just a Diablo 4 channel, or I could have just called it Mole Plays D4 or something like that, or something clever, I don't know. The Loot Mole, who knows? Hey, that's actually a pretty good name. Whatever. The point is, it's not a purely Diablo 4 channel. I made this always clear. And yeah, so Starfield will definitely be one of the bigger vocal points in this channel going forward. And I hope you stick with the channel. I would appreciate that. But Diablo 4 is not gone, to make this very clear. Like, I see still a lot of potential in Diablo 4. And it really comes just down how much greed Activision has, and we know it's a lot, and how much Blizzard can just do their thing, right? So that is something I cannot predict. And it will be interesting to see what happens when Microsoft is taking over, because that is also getting closer and closer. And I'm really hoping that Microsoft will not be completely hands-off like they have been with, let's say, Bethesda. They took Bethesda, but Bethesda is basically still its own company. It's so weird, right? Like, if you were going to Microsoft as a content creator, or even with PR and all that, they're like, oh no, don't talk to us. That's not us. That's Bethesda. Please go to Bethesda. It's like, wait, but are you not owning Bethesda? Yeah, but no. So it's literally you just like, yeah, Bethesda is its own entity, and I feel like they would do the same thing with Activision Blizzard, and I'm hoping not. I'm hoping they will rein in, especially Activision, and I'm hoping they're getting rid of the board. I know that everyone's like, yeah, Bobby Kotick. It's always like, yes, Bobby Kotick is a dick, and that dude has to go, absolutely, but also does the board of directors, which has been there for decades, and some even since Blizzard has been founded, and they're absolutely scumbags if you're looking into them, and they have been greenlighting a lot of the bullshit we are now seeing in Blizzard and all that. So the board of directors is equally to blame, and I'm hoping that Microsoft is like, yeah, we don't need a board of directors and CEO and all that for that company, because we are now owning you, so get lost. Will that happen? We have to see. But interesting times ahead. With that said, folks, I will cut it here. Thank you so much for listening. And let's hope we see all each other again for something more positive. Maybe season 2. Maybe season 2 will be amazing. That would be nice. And yeah, if not, I will probably see you next week for molds. For molds? For Mole in Space. Or something similar. Mole Between the Stars? We will see. Till then, have a good one. Stay safe. Bye-bye.